And Paul is not a copyright lawyer, but we're going to get into some copyright talk here in just a moment because of this story with LeBron James and Alabama about the barbershop conversations. But first, your thoughts. I know you're happy for Deontay. You represent him in legal matters. And as I was discussing with Jay, and I kind of took Jay down memory lane, and he's like, wow, I hadn't thought about it because I'm so caught up in the moment. But from where he started to where he's at now, I know the whole community, the whole state's happy for him, but you having a personal relationship with him, you have to be thrilled that he stands on the cusp of one of the biggest fights in heavyweight boxing history.
You know, I'm tickled for him, Gary. I can remember back when Deontay injured his hand one time, and my oldest son, who's now 21, was 11 at the time, and I asked him to box.
Time flies.
Or he asked me to box, and I took him over to Jay's gym. Jay and I grew up together, dear friends. And North began to box, and Deontay was there, and he walked up to me and said, "Man, I need a job." And I said, "Well, you know, what would you like to do?" And he goes, "Man, you got anything at your law firm?" I said, "Won't you come work? Come on, show up Monday." He was there. He worked hard. He filed. And a lot of people take that a boxer may or may not be the most intelligent person because they get in a ring and let someone hit them in the head. Let me tell you about Deontay Wilder. He is very articulate. He's a great writer, and he did an excellent job with our firm. And it really, I'll never forget when I saw his handwriting and just how he could write. I thought, this young man is a smart man. And anyway, I'm tickled for him because I watched him early on, fight back, work hard, and now his dreams are coming to fruition each and every day. And wow, I mean, here's the fight that we've been waiting on. And I cannot imagine what the state of Alabama and the city of Tuscaloosa will be thinking that night when the bell rings. So
it's gonna be special. And
Absolutely.
And now that we can, as I said with Jay earlier, Paul, good old expression here in the South, it's so close we can smell it.
That's right.
It's right there. Paul Patterson in studio with us. Hey, let me remind you that we're about to get into some copyright talk because of this LeBron story. And even though Paul's not a copyright lawyer, he knows all the legal maneuvering. He knows these form letters that are sent out, and he's going to give us the insight into what exactly he thinks will happen between Alabama and LeBron here. It'll never become a real big legal matter, we don't think. But you can call in if you've got a legal question for Paul on any topic. 205-342-9904. That's the Bud Light hotline from our good friends at Adams Beverages. 205-342-9904. Paul's going to be with us for a couple of segments here in studio. So if you got a legal question, feel free to call in. All right, let's get to this LeBron deal. I called you last night and I said, hey, I know you usually have a topic for me, but I want to hit on this because it's two of the biggest names in sports, LeBron James and the University of Alabama football, kind of having a little legal maneuvering here. Tom called in yesterday and said, hey, why don't you have Paul talk about this tomorrow? So that's what we want to do. To refresh people, LeBron James, according to Dave McMenamin, who does a great job covering the Cavaliers for ESPN.com, he says LeBron has an issue with the University of Alabama football coach Nick Saban, and it's not over something Saban said, however, but the vehicle used to say it. Last week, the official Twitter account for Alabama football released the first installment of Shop Talk with Alabama alums Julio Jones, Ryan Anderson, Eddie Jackson, joining Saban and other folks in the Bama Cuts, which is the barbershop inside the Malmore Athletic Facility for University of Alabama football players. It's a barbershop setting, and they were discussing football, and Julio was talking about what he learned at Alabama and why he likes to come back, so forth and so on. You know, if you've watched it, you've seen it. It's a great piece, by the way. Go to Alabama football's Twitter account to see it. But James, on his multimedia platform, Uninterrupted, had previously released 2 installments of the web series The Shop, featuring Cav star with friends, business associates, sports and pop culture figures having free-flowing conversations while, of course, getting haircuts in a barbershop. There is the rub, Paul. There's no need for me to read any more of this. You see where this is going. Uninterrupted has sent University of Alabama a letter basically saying that this infringes on their copyright, trademark rights, and other valuable intellectual property rights in the shop and significantly damages Uninterrupted's commercial prospects for the shop. That's what the letter reads in part, okay? It goes on to invite a conversation with Alabama before rushing into legal proceedings, which basically says, hey, we don't want this thing to come to any kind of lawsuit, but let's talk. Let's see what we can tweak. So based on that, Paul, in your opinion, where does it go from here?
Well, let me share this, Gary. I am the son of a barber, and Went Patterson.
So you know about barbershop
and
talk.
if Ground Chuck is listening, he's called in. He knows my family, and Dad's probably cut his hair. But at the VA hospital, I grew up sitting in the barbershop with Dad and listening to the men talk while his dad was cutting their hair and shaving them. And men, as they would sit there to wait on their turn, they would all share stories. Let's just go ahead and get this out here. This is not unique. This venue's not unique. Back in the 30s and 40s, some of your most prosperous individuals in the communities were barbers. And here's why. As they sat and cut the hair of whoever they're cutting or shaving, the men in the barbershop would talk about business opportunities.
Absolutely.
And the barber would generally get on the clue bus and end up investing or being a part of it because it was just a unique situation where they got the information. But anyway, and that's back in the 30s and 40s. But people talk. They go into a barbershop setting. It's generally relaxed, and they talk. So it's not unique. And if you remember, Gary, I think this is probably over 10 years ago. I think VUA used to run a segment with downtown Northport. There was a barber there who would do stories about.
Sure did. Absolutely.
You remember
ran
that?
I do very well. So what you're saying, the bottom line is sitting around in a barbershop setting, talking about sports and politics and business and other things is not exclusive to LeBron James.
It's not.
And in fact, I said this yesterday, Paul. Back in the 90s, Nike did a whole series of ads. I remember it well because Latrell Sprewell was in them.
Right.
Before he went to and One. And Chris Webber and Tim Hardaway and others sitting around in a barbershop talking about dunks. One of them was when Webber went behind his back and dunked on Barkley.
Yes.
And they were going, so
it's not
that,
unique.
I guess, will be Alabama's argument is that you can't have exclusivity to something that goes on at a lot of different places in the country. And, of course, Made in America, or Coming to America, the movie with Eddie Murphy.
That's right.
Had the big barbershop scenes.
Yeah, it's two things to remember about copyrights is you have a copyright from the moment you have a fixed work in a tangible form or some means of expression. So once you have it and you've written it down, if it's unique, of course, and you can copyright that it doesn't have to be filed. It's automatically copywritten. But in order to take that other legal step, of course, you go and have it formally copywritten. But it's got to be something unique. And this is not unique. And I don't think LeBron will ever go down the legal avenue here. Number one, because of the damages. What's he going to claim? He makes $100 million a year, as we talked about, off the court. So how is he going to claim that his copyright has been infringed upon by Alabama by doing something of this nature? You also, people out there listening, you can go read about fair use. That is a defense to copyright infringement. That's from my law school days 20-plus years ago. But it's still relevant today because there are many, many cases throughout the United States in the federal courts talking about what is fair use of a copywritten material. And it's not like the university is making money off this show. Of course, LeBron's going to argue that it's promoting the athletic department and Coach Saban and the football team. And in a way, maybe it is. But I don't think Coach Saban needs the barbershop show to promote the program. I think it promotes itself, as we know, through national championships. So, I don't understand why they did this. As a lawyer looking at it, it's a mountain to climb for LeBron and his legal team now. Whether they want to try it, of course, that's up to them, and he's got the money to try it, but I don't see it going anywhere in the end.
An interesting story that came out yesterday. It's made the rounds. Dave McMenamin, the ESPN beat writer for the Cleveland Cavaliers, was the first to report it. LeBron James, uninterrupted, issues letter to Alabama football over copyright infringement. Alabama started a series called Shop Talk on the Twitter account, and LeBron already has a series through his company Uninterrupted called The Shop. So James and his company are claiming copyright infringement, have sent Alabama a letter. Paul has told us in the first segment that he doesn't ever think this will actually come to the point where there are legal ramifications. But what does come up next? Is there a phone call between lawyers for Alabama football and Uninterrupted trying to come to agreement? Do you think Uninterrupted will push Alabama to change the name, change the setting? I mean, what exactly do you think? How will this go down in your opinion?
Well, I think the University Council will reach out to the attorney for LeBron and to discuss, what the problem, why they think infringement has occurred, et cetera. They may do it through a letter, but I think they'll pick the phone up and say, we need to have a conversation about this to see if we can reach an agreement. If there is something that they want tweaked, then it may be something where the university says, okay, we'll tweak it. We're not acknowledging that we've infringed upon your copyright, and there'll be an agreement between them. But again, it goes to damages, even though they could be nominal, but still the damages that LeBron would have to prove. Plus, it's not like Alabama's making money off this. It's a free video that you can watch now. So it's just LeBron and his legal team, they have a mountain to climb when it comes to proving damages and infringement, but just in a spirit of compromise and to resolve, something that could become an issue unnecessarily for the university. I'm sure the council will reach out and say, let's talk about this. Let's see if it is something that we could reach an agreement upon that satisfies LeBron's legal team, and it's over. But as far as this being, a major story with major ramifications, I don't see it. I think the university went through enough when they tackled the Daniel Moore incident and the paintings and the legal fees that were spent on that, in my opinion, were just, unnecessary. So anyway, I think they will reach out to one another in the next few days and just try to find out exactly what the details are that they claim infringed upon LeBron's copyright, if any. So it's going to be interesting to see what occurs, but I just don't see a lot of teeth in this from LeBron's standpoint. And if you read his letter or his attorney's letter, they sort of take the posture of they're asking the university to engage them and talk about it. It's not like they're threatening we're about to file suit.
I agree with you, Paul. And with that in mind, why even bother to do it? Is it more or less, hey, this is LeBron James, this is interrupted, we're the big cheese, we just want to make sure that we did this first? Is it more about just posturing and ego than it is actual, first of all, like you said, why can't both shows exist? As you said, Alabama is not doing it for profit. They're doing it for recruiting.
Right.
That's the bottom line, which doesn't infringe on anything LeBron James is doing in the NBA. Why even send a letter?
I guess what he's worried about is if he believes that he has copywritten material that is his exclusively, that he's going around the country, and he is now, wanting to put out any other people trying to go down this road and create other types of shows, which, as we talked before, there's been other shows. So, hey, if he thinks he has found something unique that is his intellectual property that manifests itself in the form of the show, then I guess that's the only reason he would go around trying to do this. But there's been other individuals who do that, Gary. They scan the United States to find out if anyone's using their material that's been and it has a copyright on it, so they can get nominal damages. I don't think that's LeBron's angle on this, because just given the amount of money this man makes. So anyway, I just don't see this thing going past the next few days.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it, though, and keep you up to date on what happens. 10:21 here on the Gary Harris Show. Paul with us for another, 5 or 6 minutes. So if you want to get through and ask him a question on the Bud Light Hotline, you can do so at 205-342-9904. All right, Paul, we wanted to cover this LeBron deal because it's tied into Alabama football. Obviously, we wanted to talk a little bit about Deontay since you represent him on legal matters. And now I want to mention again a special week for you and your wife coming up. On Monday, you travel to Washington, D.C. On Tuesday, you'll be a part of the official Alabama football traveling party for the White House ceremony with President Trump, recognizing Alabama's national championship victory. We mentioned it a little bit last week, but I can see that smile on your face. I mean, this is something that you just got to be thrilled to be a part of.
Yeah, I am, Gary. We're humbled and honored. Never thought I'd get to do something like that. And when the invitation came, I was still just stunned. Katie, my wife, I called her, and of course, she cool as a cucumber, blood pressure is always wonderful. She's like, "Oh, that's great." And I think
you're more like me.
Man, I'm bouncing off the
wall. Our sleeve, don't we, Paul?
Well, you grow up and you do your best to work hard, and man, you just thank God for those opportunities. Yeah. Something to go to the White House, and I can't wait to tell you about it. And as I said, we can take photographs, but we cannot video.
Right.
So I will.
You can take some photos, and also because it's not until Tuesday afternoon, you're going to join us on the phone on the Bud Light Hotline next week for your segment from Washington, D.C.
I will.
To just kind of give us, your experience there on Monday and Monday night and what it's looking like getting ready for the event. That'll be fun. You can give us a live Paul Patterson reporting live from the nation's capital.
Yeah, that's right. We will give you a play-by-play. Katie and I are going to go up early, and we are allowed to be at the White House gates at 2:00. The longest part of the trip, they say, is getting through security at the White House. Of course, we were
as it should be.
As it should be, absolutely. So once you're in the White House, though, I thought it was pretty neat. If you need to go to the restroom, you are not allowed to go in the restrooms at the White House. You have to leave the White House, go to the visitor center, use the restrooms there, and then you have to go back through security.
So go before you go to the event.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I know you're looking forward to it. And, I have views, and as you know me, I don't talk a lot of politics. I just don't see where it gets you anywhere. I believe what I believe, you believe what you believe, and I'm probably not going to change your mind. You're probably not going to change mine. But this deal with President Trump being in the White House, it's become such a big controversy for a visit to the White House to acknowledge a championship. Golden State didn't go, whether he didn't invite them or they didn't, whatever happened.
Right.
You've had some of the NFL players say they won't go. I'm not a fan of that.
No.
Let's take politics out of it. This is simply a tradition of recognizing our sports champions. Where do you stand on that? Does it bother you that some athletes want to use it as a political statement when they're invited to celebrate what should be something that doesn't have, when you're pulling for your team, whether it's the Golden State Warriors or Alabama football or the Yankees or the Lakers or whatever, I'm never watching a game, Paul. I don't know about you, but when I'm watching a game, I'm not saying, I want him to miss that shot because he doesn't agree with me politically.
That's right.
When I'm watching a sporting event, politics doesn't enter into it for me, does it? You?
No.
What do you make of this?
My personal opinion is I think it's very unique how sporting events bring people together. I mean, you get different backgrounds, political views, even if people have differences between one another. When Alabama's playing, if those people are fans, they come together and they're pulling for a common cause, and that's the sporting team. And I know, Gary, as we were taught growing up in civics class, the office of the presidency of the United States is an office that we should all support, irregardless of who is in that position, whether you wanted President Obama or President Trump or Bush or Clinton. It's the office of the President of the United States, and I think first and foremost we should support and pray for our president. The decisions that the president makes every day, believe it or not, has a tremendous impact on our lives, whether we know it or not. If it's from national security briefings that the president gets every morning, I would like to know what people would think if we were all privy to those briefings when they get national security briefings. So, this is the man that's the leader of the free world. I think we should support the person in that office. We may not agree with his policy or politics or tweets, but we should support the president because we are Americans and we are here to promote the United States of America, and we have the greatest country in this world. And we are very blessed to be in this country because we live in a country where someone can grow up and not have much, but they can pull themselves up, work hard, and be given any opportunity in the world based on education and where they are in life and hard work. So, we're blessed, and I think we take those freedoms for granted sometimes. And but anyway, I'm like you, Gary. I don't like to bring the politics into it. I think sports bring us together, and we ought to support the office of president.